In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd, looking for a lost goat, threw a stone into a dark cave opening. He didn't hear the familiar thud of rock against rock. Instead, he heard the sharp, distinct sound of shattering clay. That echo from a cave high above the Dead Sea would reverberate through history, leading to what many call the greatest archaeological discovery of the 20th century. Inside that cave and others nearby lay thousands of ancient manuscript fragments preserved in jars for 2 millennia, the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were a window into a lost world, a time capsule of ancient beliefs, laws, and stories. But as soon as the world learned of their existence, the scrolls were locked away. For decades, they were placed under the strict control of a small, exclusive team of international scholars. Access was heavily restricted. High-resolution photographs were withheld from the public, and most disturbingly, entire fragments began to vanish without a trace. The discovery that promised to illuminate our past was instead plunged into a new kind of darkness. The question wasn't just what the scrolls contained, but why someone was so determined to keep them secret. For nearly 40 years, a select group of just 8 scholars held the keys to the kingdom. This small committee controlled everything. Who could see the scrolls, which parts were translated, and what interpretations were presented to the world? They created a bottleneck of information, releasing only what they deemed appropriate. When other respected academics requested access, they were denied. When scholars questioned the team's slow pace or offered alternative interpretations, they were publicly discredited or pushed aside. This wasn't standard academic caution. It felt like a deliberate strategy to control the narrative. Why grant exclusive access to a closed group for decades? Were they merely preserving fragile documents, or were they curating history, deciding what the public was and wasn't allowed to know? The longer the secrecy persisted, the more the world began to wonder what they were trying to hide. The mystery deepened when people started noticing discrepancies. Early catalogs and inventories of the scrolls, compiled shortly after their discovery, listed fragments and scroll portions that years later were nowhere to be found. They had simply disappeared from official archives. Where did they go? Some were quietly sold on the black market, ending up in the hands of anonymous private collectors, their contents forever hidden from public view. Other fragments reportedly went missing during transport between museums and laboratories. One famous scholar even admitted to keeping fragments in a cigar box under his bed. These were not minor, illegible scraps. They were pieces of a puzzle, and their disappearance suggests they contained information someone found inconvenient, controversial, or perhaps even dangerous to established historical and religious narratives. What we do have access to is already world-changing. The scrolls contain the oldest known manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible, but they also contain so much more. Among the texts are writings that never made it into any official scripture. There are alternative versions of biblical stories with familiar figures acting in unfamiliar ways. There are apocalyptic prophecies detailing cosmic wars between forces of light and darkness, visions that are far more graphic and detailed than anything in the canonical Bible. We find instructions for strange, secret rituals and complex rules for an unknown brotherhood obsessed with purity and righteousness. Their cosmology, their understanding of the universe and divine order, often challenges traditional teachings head-on. These texts weren't just variations. They were entirely different paths of thought, raising profound questions about what was included in our modern Bible, what was excluded, and why. So who were the people who wrote these texts and hid them in the desert caves? The most common theory points to a mysterious sect known as the Essenes, a reclusive community that lived an ascetic life near the Dead Sea at Qumran. But this is far from a settled debate. Other theories suggest they were a breakaway priesthood, exiled from the temple in Jerusalem after a political or religious dispute. Or perhaps they were a broader movement, a secret library collecting texts from various dissident groups, all hiding their sacred knowledge from the powerful religious authorities of their time. Whoever they were, one thing is certain. They lived in isolation and guarded their writings with absolute secrecy. They believed their knowledge was sacred and perhaps too powerful for the outside world. The intrigue continues to this day. Of the 11 caves at Qumran where scrolls were found, one remains a tantalizing enigma, Cave 11Q. While scrolls were recovered from it, archaeologists believe the cave was never fully excavated. More tantalizingly, another cave nearby, known as Cave 12, was discovered but quickly sealed. The official reason given was structural instability, a risk of collapse. However, leaked memos and rumors from within the archaeological community have hinted at a different reason. They suggest the cave may contain writings of a highly controversial nature, and the decision to block access was made to prevent a potential firestorm. Why would authorities block archaeologists from a site that could potentially rewrite history? What could be so sensitive that it's better left buried under tons of rock? Even the science has become part of the mystery. When radiocarbon dating was performed on the scrolls to verify their age, something strange happened. Tests conducted on the same scroll fragments by different, highly respected labs produced conflicting dates. Some results placed the manuscripts earlier than expected, while others placed them significantly later. This scientific discrepancy is a major problem. Instead of publishing all the results and opening up a debate about why these inconsistencies exist, officials selectively released only the data that fit the established timeline. What do these inconsistent dates really mean? Do they point to a much longer period of authorship? Or do they suggest that some texts were edited or altered centuries after they were first written? The suppressed data is another layer of the cover-up. Perhaps the most compelling mystery is found in the recurring figure mentioned throughout the scrolls, a mysterious leader known only as the Teacher of Righteousness. These texts describe him as a messianic figure, a priest and prophet who was persecuted and possibly killed by an enemy called the Wicked Priest. He challenged the established religious authorities in Jerusalem, taught a new interpretation of the law, and was revered by his followers. Some scholars believe this teacher predates the key figures of the New Testament, perhaps providing a blueprint for later narratives. Others suggest he was a contemporary, a rival leader whose story was deliberately suppressed. The ambiguity is frustrating, and it is made worse by one chilling fact. Many of the passages describing this Teacher of Righteousness are among the fragments that have mysteriously disappeared or remain untranslated. His story has been systematically erased. Ultimately, the decades of secrecy cannot be explained away by simple academic caution. The evidence points to a genuine fear among political and religious institutions, a fear that the scrolls could disrupt established belief systems, shatter accepted historical timelines, or undermine the authority of doctrines built over centuries. Uncontrolled, the scrolls had the power to introduce a new, competing narrative about the past. By controlling the scrolls, they could control public perception, preserving the status quo. The secrecy wasn't just about ancient history. It was about modern power. This brings us to the final, lingering question. What truths hidden within the Dead Sea Scrolls were deemed too dangerous for the world to know? Was it an alternative history of ancient Israel? Was it lost teachings that were intentionally edited out of the Bible? Or was it concrete evidence of suppressed traditions and rival messiahs whose stories were deliberately buried, both literally and figuratively? After more than 70 years, we are still piecing together the puzzle. But it's clear that some secrets weren't just lost to time. They were hidden. If you're ready to uncover more Forbidden's archives and question the official story, subscribe to the True Story Files, and let us know in the comments, what do you think is hidden in the missing fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls?